Just say hello and who you are.
Hello, I'm Edith Borroff.
All right, good. I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about any memories you might have of people or musicians you met earlier in your career, around the time you joined ACA.
Well, I think my life is worth hearing about, and I can only tell you that my mother was very famous. She was a pianist, and she was a composer, but it was the piano work that made her famous, although a couple of her pieces have been very popular. And
so was she your first teacher?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. So your mom taught you piano?
She was in the apprenticeship system.
Okay.
And that's a very important thing, because when we changed from the apprenticeship system, we changed to a university system of training musicians. Mm-hmm. And that out of work, the fact that musicians have been trained from babyhood. They'd wait until they were out of high school and then start training them. And that made a big difference in the education system. Mm-hmm. So the earliest thing I remember is that if ever we heard a sound, my mother would tell me what the pitch was.
Did you have perfect pitch?
She had perfect pitch. I have perfect pitch. Okay. My sister has perfect pitch. She was a poet and not a musician, but she was trained the way I was trained. I mean, I was trained the way she was trained. She's 2 years older than I am. And she was writing poetry by the age of 3.
Wow.
She was reading at the age of 1.
And what about you? When did you first either read music or?
I couldn't read. I was a dyslexic.
Oh, okay.
And I taught myself to read when I was a junior in high school. And I think that the fact that I was put into the next grade every year when I couldn't read is a little strange. And I think it's strange, too, that my mother received report cards from me every month. And they always neglected to say I couldn't read. They all said I wouldn't read. And so that made it punishable.
This was in New York, yes?
Yes, this was in New York City.
Right.
Yeah. At Friends Seminary. And it was, I gave my first recital at the age of 4, which was considered laggard because my mother had given her first at the age of 3. And my sister didn't do it. She was writing poetry and doing things like that.
Right.
She wrote wonderful poems. The lion is the king of beasts. His coat protects him too. But if you ever tease him, he may get mad at you.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. Is she still around, your sister?
Yeah, she's at Yale.
Okay.
She's very famous.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, most of us aren't. I mean, let's face it.
No, I was rather successful as a composer. I stopped writing 3 years ago because my hand wiggles. If you can't write anything down, you're not composing.
You're thinking, but you're not.
Well, I think still, but I don't know what I think. Mm-hmm. I think musical, and I can't translate it into English. I could translate it into music, but I couldn't translate it into English.
What was your main instrument? The piano? Was that your main instrument?
Yes, but I've played in public on the cello, on the timpani, on the tambourine. Mm-hmm.
And you played organ a lot, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
When I went to Oberlin to study, that's something that you will be interested in knowing. When I went to Oberlin to study, I asked register as a composition major. And the dean said to me, "Women don't write music." And I wasn't allowed to study composition. And the fact that I had been writing music already for 10 years
Right.
didn't affect anybody.
Well, I'm glad you did that. I mean, I was actually a composition major at Oberlin.
At Oberlin?
Yes.
Oh, well, maybe.
I mean,
made
after
that,
you. Yes, you made a
that
difference.
possible
Yes,
for you,
that's right.
maybe. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I wasn't allowed to do anything. But a famous organist was there,
Mm-hmm.
a woman named Claire Coci. And I studied organ with her because I was a pianist and not an organist. I studied with her for 2 years. At the end of the second year, she was killed in an automobile accident.
Oh, my goodness.
So I left and went back to Chicago to the American Conservatory and studied composition.
Who did you study composition with there?
Irwin Fischer. He was a very good teacher. And I did very well. In the years that I was working, the first 10 years or so, I just did my own composing and put on my own programs.
With colleagues from your own...
Wherever I was teaching.
Right.
Most of the schools where I was teaching would not permit any of my works to be performed at the school, but they would permit me to study. It was a sort of a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
And I received, during my, well, how long would you say it was, 40 years, I received 68 commissions, which indicates that somebody liked my...
Someone liked your work, yeah.
But I worked on a lot of bases, and the horn sonata is an example of that. The horn is an instrument whose technique is based on the overtone system. And so I've always thought that the horn was a key instrument. It should be in a key. And when I got I didn't get a commission to do the horn sonata, but I accepted a job at Milwaukee Downer College, which is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, needless to say. And the head of the department was a horn player. And I toured with her for 3 years.
Great.
As her accompanist.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of that time, I thought, and I knew I was leaving, that I was going to get my doctorate at the University of Michigan. Not in composition. They wouldn't
In musicology, yes.
Musicology.
Right.
Well, a man went to Egypt to excavate the tombs.
Oh, okay. Right, archaeological tour.
And her husband went with him on the tour, and they came back with a lot of things, which was the pattern in those days. And since I was studying Egypt on my own, and their music and what they were doing in musical terms, I mean, they must have been doing something. They invented the violin, they invented the horn, they invented the flute. Why would you invent all those things if you didn't have any music? So I was interested in studying what they were doing and did quite a bit. And they would give me tours of their house and show me what they had and where it came from and all that. They gave me for my birthday a string of beads that had belonged to Queen Ty.
Right.
But I lost them. I took a bus trip to go, I don't know what I was doing, it was a business trip. But my heart was never in it. But I did things I liked. I looked into ancient Egypt, for instance, which I had been interested in because of my mother's best friend, when they were teenagers, married a man who went on the first Norwegian tour. Anyway, when it came time to write the sonata for horn and piano, horn and whatever, but I was going to play with her, so I wrote it for horn and piano. And I toured with her for 3 years. Mm-hmm.
So you wrote it for the tour, or you wrote it after you had toured with her?
Oh, after.
After.
I don't remember the year the tour is, but if you read a history of Egypt, you find it there. And it was interesting. Anyway, I thought that the horn sonata should be in a key, because that's what the horn was. Well, because the horn is based on the overtone system. It has F, C, F, A, C, E flat, which is not in pitch, and F, and going on. And so I wrote the horn sonata in a key, and I'm wondering if that's going to be against me tomorrow, or tonight. Well, you don't think I should feel they're shooting at me while it's...
No, I don't think so. No. I think there's all kinds of music. Yeah.
Well, she and I played the piece several times, and then she retired and died very soon, unexpectedly. So things she hadn't sorted through things, and she hadn't done what she intended to do because it was so close to retirement. And she was a very busy head of the department. She was head of the music department, which was a big department in the school. I would think any school based on females in the middle of the 19th century would have a lot of music in it. Anyway, this school did. For what reason, we will never know.
Well, a lot of schools in the Midwest have long traditions of active...
That's true.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee was quite an interesting city. My great-grandfather, one of them, my father's grandfather, was born in Milwaukee. No, it wasn't. It was my mother's grandfather. It was my mother's grandfather. Was born in Milwaukee and lived there all his life. Almost all of it, whatever. And that was, I did some research into his life, and that taught me how to research people, which in musicology you don't really know, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm also very grateful for the success that Sonata had at the time. And then it went for years without being played.
Was that because the publisher went out of business, or was that...
No, that was because it was in the key.
The style changed.
Yeah. In one way I resented it, in another way I took it humorously. I can't tell you which was real. They were both real, one way or the other. I taught at the university for 49 years. Being to New York for 19 years before I retired. That's the last place I taught. And I taught at the University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, USC, UNC at Chapel Hill for 1 year when the head of the department was on sabbatical. And then I taught someplace else near here.
But you were composing the whole time and writing pieces for your colleagues in all those places?
No. The colleagues very often, if they were men, they were very much against me. And if I had a woman colleague, she was fine. And I had a famous sister, which I already told you. I didn't tell you she was famous. She taught at Yale since 56 or 57, I don't know which. they've just established a Marie Borroff professorship in humanity.
Okay.
And that's an honor you can't buy.
This is in creative writing or in English? Or
English,
right.
Her specialties are 14th century English poetry and 20th century English poetry. She wrote a book on Robert Frost many years ago before he was as famous as he is. And I've always thought that was good that she did it.
She was thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And you wrote some musicological works that included American composers in them, right? In one of the first books.
Yes. I wrote the first history of music that contained anything about the United States. I called it Music in Europe and the United States.
How was that received?
Wasn't received well, but a couple of years ago, something came out about it, how important it was. And so it's, I always got there, but through the wrong path.
Or it just took everyone else a long time to catch up. Took the shorter path. Yesterday that you couldn't really remember not being an ACA, right?
Not being a what?
In American Composers Alliance, you couldn't remember not being.
No, I couldn't remember.
You just joined when you were composing on your own. And,
yeah. That's the only way you could do it in those days.
Right.
And I've been composing even in the 20s.
Mm-hmm. So did you know people like Copland?
No, I didn't. My mother did, but I didn't. Okay. I'm trying to think of the composer I knew the best, and he was. I can't think of his name now. He was very modern composer, and I think his first name was George, because I think that's what I called him. I wrote a book called Three American Composers, in which the first composer was the one who wrote completely on the inheritance from the past. The second composer wrote with everything surrounding him. And the third composer was the one that I can't remember the name of, who was really a modernist. He wrote very early, he wrote my mind.
It's okay, that's fine.
It isn't fine, but it works in some ways.
Yeah.
In some ways it doesn't work. The composers that I wrote about were Irwin Fischer as the composer who wrote in the techniques of the 19th century. He wrote some serial music, and he was the associate conductor of the Chicago Symphony. He was a very good composer.
And you worked with him.
He was a good composer. I would have written about him, but he was a good conductor. That's what I was saying about him. And the most exciting thing, in a way, that ever happened to me was one time I went. If I went to an orchestra concert in Chicago, I would go at least an hour early and talk to different people and see what they were doing and why they were playing certain modern works and different things like that. And I went there one time, and some interesting things were being performed. And Mr. Fischer came to me and said that they had just learned that the timpani player wasn't going to be there that night. And would I please play the timpani? Well, I had never done that. But I said, sure, that's the best you've got. You've got to go with what you've got. And so I played that concert. And I played timpani. And I played, what did I play?
Cymbals?
Yeah. And I played one other thing.
castanets, triangle?
Castanets.
Castanets, yeah.
I might have played the triangle because that's just but I don't remember playing the triangle. So I had many adventures.
Yeah, I see that, yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you just to finish up is, who were your favorite composers when you were first writing? And who are your favorite composers now? Outside of yourself.
I don't have favorite.
You don't have any?
I don't believe in it. I believe in favorite works. In the end, I learned, in a way, more about Fischer than about other living composers.
Mm-hmm.
And his work is well worth looking into.
I don't think a lot of people know his work right now.
I don't think a lot do.
No.
He died in, I think, 1977.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in, I think, 1903, maybe 1902.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much.